What is going on, everybody? Welcome into another Kind of Funny Xcast, your home for all things Xbox here at Kind of Funny. I'm one of your hosts, Snowbike Mike, and today you will notice I have a very special crew with me. The Gamescast crew is joining me. My two gaming dads will be back here on Friday next week for our Xcast thoughts, but we are coming hot live off of the Xbox and Bethesda Summer Showcase, and we get to talk with these four incredible gentlemen right now and break down our thoughts and our impressions of what just went down for the big showcase. Of course, joining me is the Nitro Rifle, Andy Cortez. Andy, how are you?
I'm doing great. I had an awesome show with you all. Can't wait to talk about some video games.
Andy, the one game that I know you so well for was revealed today, and I know it's now reality, and I know you're very happy about it, big dog.
Very happy, yeah.
And now I have three of you on a bench. Of course, it's the PlayStation I Love You XOXO team. Blessing Adeoye Jr., Greg Miller. Let's start with you, Bless. What's going on, big dog? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Bless. I'm happy to have you here over on the green team to, break this summer showcase down with me. Greg Miller, you and I, we brought the energy, okay? We were the ones carrying this showcase. It wasn't all Andy this time. How are you feeling now for the post show?
I'm still jacked up on Xbox vibes and dick spaceships, and I'm ready to fucking go. All right,
We're gonna make the biggest dick spaceship.
We're down in LA right now, Mike, and Paris was haunting me all week long. This ghostly shell of a man just constantly floating around, riding my coattails, trying to get to talk to people I was talking to. I hate Paris.
Well, that's my gaming dad. Let's not go that far, but I'll let you give it to him today because he's not here. And of course, the man in the middle, our fearless leader from the Kind of Funny Games cast, Mr. Tim Geddes. You are the master of hype. How hyped are you coming out of this Xbox showcase?
I'm feeling hyped, man. This has been quite the week. I'm excited to be here in LA. We're in the Funhouse studio. Shout out to them for letting us use the space. This is super cool. Love being in person with Bless and Greg. It's a totally different vibe. That was a very fun showcase. I can't wait to talk about it. So yeah.
Good. Let's get right into it. Let me roll through the housekeeping, and then we'll jump into our thoughts and impressions of the showcase. Of course, this is the Kind of Funny Xcast. If you're just joining us for the first time, welcome in. Sit back, relax. You're going to have a great show. We post each and every Saturday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and of course on podcast services all around the globe. Go search the Kind of Funny Xcast. Thank you all so much for joining us live here on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames as well. A very special episode as we do our post reactions right now. Don't forget that the Kind of Funny crew is now Epic Games partners, which means if you're buying a game off the Epic Games store, if you're upgrading your look in Rocket League or Fortnite, or if you're buying the season pass in Fortnite, please use our Epic creator code anytime at checkout. It's no additional cost to you, and you can help support the team in a brand new way. That's Kind of Funny for your Epic creator code. We want to give a big thank you to our Patreon producers for the month of June. Gordon McGuire, Fargo Brady, Pranksky, Dan, Golden Spider B, Tyler Ross, Delaney Twinning, First Responder ND, Julian the Gluten-Free Gamer, James Hastings, and Casey Andrew. Thank you all so much for supporting us over on Patreon. Don't forget, if you support over on Patreon at the bronze tier or above, you can go catch the shows on the VODs. You can even write in, and you get some of the shows ad-free at certain levels. So make sure to check that out. And of course, this week, the Kind of Funny Xcast is sponsored by MeUndies and Chime, but I'll tell you all about that in just a little bit. Let's jump right into the show. We're going to go to the bench, boys. I'm going left to right, my left. So probably you're right. I don't know how you guys are sitting down there. You're on a bench, okay?
All of the names.
I'm doing it fun. We're having fun. Of course, let's give our Kind of Funny review score of the Xbox and Bethesda showcase. And I want your initial impressions. I want some of your highlights. Give it all to me. Tim Geddes, if people are tuning in live right now, you get to be first up. What the heck is the Kind of Funny review score?
Of course, the review score scale at Kind of Funny is 1 to 5. 1 is bad. 1 is terrible. Sorry. 1 is terrible. 2 is bad. 3 is okay. 4 is great. And 5 is amazing.
We don't do
Tim,
0.5s. I see a lot of people in the chat right now throwing
No
up 0.5s. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
No
Don't
0.5s.
cheat. Don't
no
cheat.
0.5s. And
No
so,
0.5s.
I'll lead it off then. I will say, especially with no 0.5s, this is about as 4 out of 5 as you can get from a showcase. I feel that in my bones and I stand by it. I think that the best thing that they did was give context to this entire showcase, that every single thing we're seeing is the next 12 months. So that kind of creates understanding of every single thing that we're about to see is not going to be, showing you CG trailers of big surprise announcements that we're going to play in a couple years. And I think that that type of constriction can be a bad thing if you don't have things to show. They had a ton of things to show. I do think we're lacking a little bit in the dates, but we understand why. It's like they just delayed Starfield. We get that. They showed us Starfield, though. I think that was a very, very strong way to end this thing.
You'd have to be a complete clown to see at the end of Starfield, be like, why did they put a date on it? Who would say that? Who would say that, Mike?
Who would say such a thing? Maybe 11/11/22 isn't a real date anymore. Who knows, Greg?
Who knows? Who knows? No, but with that, I think that they clearly don't have a date yet, right? And I think that they're still kind of trying to figure out what that looks like. But we did get a time frame of that 12 months, knowing that by next June, all the games that we saw we're going to be playing, and we're going to be playing them on Xbox Game Pass. I think, as we've talked about year after year now, like this has been building the Xbox brand, the Game Pass brand, and that list of games when they showed all the different logos at the end was like, yo, that's insane. There's a lot of good stuff. There was a couple highlights for me. The last case of Benedict Fox looks like a Tim-ass game. I think overall the showcase was lacking Tim-ass games, but that's okay. I'm not reviewing this based on my taste of this stuff. I'm reviewing it based on how good of a showcase it was, and I think they really brought the heat. A couple missteps for me, not having Silk Song release date is a bizarre choice, but what it did come with is day one on Game Pass. We know that. We're getting Overwatch day one on Game Pass. We got Diablo day one on Game Pass. Like, there was a lot of big things. And of course, Hideo Kojima. Would have loved to see something a little more substantial, like anything really, but it's now confirmed. It's actually happening. I'm a little is that also going to be in the 12 months or no?
Kojima's thing was pretty clear that like, hey, this is going to take a while. So that
Kojima's starting work in 12 months.
That was an interesting swerve. But it's also interesting, of course, because I thought once it got confirmed here that we were going to get the trailer, right? Of course, there was a hullabaloo this week of VGC, Tom Henderson. Reporting that he had been back channeled and given a Hideo Kojima trailer for a new horror game. So I thought, yeah, Kojima was going to talk and then like, let's look at it. Instead, we just got, hey, I'm working on this. It's going to take a while and it's going to use the cloud, but we'll talk about it later. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And people in the chat are saying that Activision's not on Game Pass, according to the graphics. So that's interesting. But regardless of that, I think overall this was a extremely well-paced, extremely well-presented showcase. And again, the context of the 12 months, I think, is a fantastic thing. And guess what? That just means we're going to get another showcase eventually that is kind of like the bigger one, announcing more projects and all that stuff for the future. But 4 out of 5.
Blessing Adeoye Jr. on the bench. Give me your kind of funny scale and your impressions of the show.
Yeah, I think not doing the half score thing makes it difficult because I really wish I could give this a 4.5. But
wow,
do it.
Just with me, I can do. Can I do
No
it?
half scores.
No,
we just
half
said you
scores.
can't do it. You
Let me
can't
do it. Let me out.
You're allowed.
No, I think for me, I think it's a 4 out of 5. I think overall the constriction of having it be the next 12 months kind of sets the bar at we're not going to have Indiana Jones by Machine Games. We're not going to have the next Wolfenstein 3. There's so many things that weren't here, and there's so many questions left in terms of what a lot of studios are working at on Xbox. And I'm kind of surprised to not get the answer to quite a few of those questions. Surprised to not see Hellblade 2 here. Surprised to not see, quite a few games that I feel like, Xbox fans have been looking for answers for. I did like seeing Redfall.
Remember when I said Hellblade not coming out soon?
Did you say that?
You called that back.
Yeah.
I did like seeing Redfall though. I thought Redfall looked dope as hell. I like the closing on Starfield, though. I will say, Gary came into the chat right before we actually started recording. Was talking about how he was a bit underwhelmed by it, and I wouldn't say I was underwhelmed, but Starfield didn't strike me as life changing, and maybe that's me putting on like too much weight on Bethesda. Maybe I'm looking at them as saviors, right? As like game changers, but I think that's because for me, Bethesda has been game changers in the past. Right, like Fallout 3 is one of my favorite RPGs of all time. Skyrim came through and was Skyrim, right? And like even Fallout 4, I absolutely love Fallout 4. Watching Starfield, I think the stuff that they showed for it looked great. I think the environments look incredible. I think the gameplay looks very standard for what I'd expect out of a big Bethesda RPG, right? The character models look like a Bethesda RPG, which I think is good, kind of good and kind of bad. I didn't love how the character models look. There's some stuff in like the facial features and like the lip syncing and all that stuff that didn't necessarily look right. And again, like the game now is like a year out, and so we'll see how that stuff comes together toward the end. But I don't know. It just looks very much like a Bethesda Bethesda Game Studio RPG, and I want them to push through that a little bit.
Man,
further.
I don't agree.
Really?
Yeah, I think it looks like an improvement on what they've done before. And again, I'm with you that the eyes of the NPCs sure aren't perfect, but I think the facial animations look better, I thought, than what I saw in Fallout 4. And I thought, like I said, when we went to third person and we were running around, I think that looks, again, the eyes don't look great,
Yeah.
but I think also that'll be it'll be a style you get used to or whatever. Third person here, as you see, I thought it looked way better than usually it looks in a Bethesda.
The thing is, like, the third person, I really like the environments. I think the environments are the best looking thing about the game. And I think
They look awesome.
a lot of that comes from the details of like art direction and all that stuff. And it reminds me of playing Cyberpunk, where one of the things I like the best about Cyberpunk is the fact that stylistically that game looked great. And I remember having scenes with like, talking to Keanu Reeves as Johnny Silverhand and all that stuff, me looking at it and being like, man, this game looks good.
Yeah.
Right. Like I want a Bethesda game to be a top tier. Oh, not only does this have a great story, not only is this world interesting, this game also looks gorgeous. And I'm getting that from the environments. I feel like it didn't get that as much from characters. But aside from that, right, I think gameplay wise, I'm very interested to see how this stuff actually lands for people in terms of it feeling like it's leaning into more of the No Man's Sky stuff. That's something that they started off with in Fallout 4 in terms of finding resources, taking that back to your camp, building out a camp. It looks like they're building off of that for this game, which good for them. I like that they're doubling down. That's something that I think hit people in different ways. But I hope for this one it's improved. I hope that hits, because I think if they're able to pull that off, it's gonna be very exciting. I don't want to burn all the Starfield talk now, but I liked how that looked. I'm surprised that was their ender and there wasn't one more thing after that too. I think that's something that surprised me. But outside of that, there were some blessing games in there. I did like Cocoon. I thought Cocoon looked dope as hell. I like the fact that you were gonna get that in the next 12 months, and it's coming from the people behind Inside and Limbo, right? And so like the bar is set. Like that's gonna be a dope ass game. Hopefully, if everything comes together. And then the one other one I want to shout out is the one from Squanch Games. I already forget what it was called. It was like High on Life.
High on Life.
High on
Yeah.
Life. That game looks dope as fuck. I'm somebody who really liked Trover Saves the Universe on PlayStation VR, and like that's another game that is dominated by the Morty voice, right? Like I love that he just decides not to change that voice. He's just gonna be this character throughout the whole thing.
Yes.
But Justin Roiland humor is very specific, and it really hits for the people that dig it. And I'm somebody that digs that.
It hits for me too. Yeah. I'm
very much looking forward to all these different weapons and guns having their own personalities, talking to you, having the different voices. Like it's not just Justin Roiland too, right? Was it JB Smooth that people were shouting out when he was in there?
Yep.
I think this game looks dope as hell, and so this spoke to me as well. And so yeah, 4 out of 5. I thought it was great. I don't think it was a masterpiece of a showcase, but one, they don't always have to be, and then also, I think that then kind of saves some of the ammo for a future presentation for them to then talk about Hellblade or Machine Games, id Software, what all the other studios are working on.
Greg Miller, my man, you brought the energy. Talk to me. What did you think?
It's interesting, this all this talk about the 0.5s, because I thought the 0.5s would have gone more to a 3.5 to a 4 as a debate. For me personally, I think it's a 4 out of 5 as well. I think it's another one where I echo what everybody said, right? Not every game was a Greg-ass game here, right? But I was never bored. I never sat there and thought about how long this was going for. I never thought it was too long. It flew by. I loved that. And I think the pacing was great. I think the entertainment value was great. I think the games that weren't my kind of games were in and out and were interested in, and they did it in an interesting enough way to be. And there was one point where we said, like, when was the last time there was a human being on stage talking to us, right? It was just game, 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 game. And again, it drove home how important Game Pass is and how great of a service that is, right? The thing we haven't brought up that, again, means nothing to me, but you guys all freaked out about was the Riot stuff. Putting the Riot games in there for Xbox Game Pass PC, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, that's awesome. That's a great value add, and those are the kind of partnerships you want to see for it, right? And even though that doesn't bring anything to the table for me, I'm glad it's there for everybody else who's going to be using this, right? In terms of games from it, right, I thought Redfall was a great start. Like, Redfall has been this game of like, well, what is it? And like, I'm interested in Redfall now. I'm stoked for Redfall now. I can't wait to know more about that, right? And I think you go through and you find a whole bunch of stuff where you latch on to what you latch on to. And so for me, like, look, As Dusk Falls is a game I've been interested in since they announced it. I love those narrative games. I love those choice-based games. To see this, it's, people who were formerly of Quantic Dream or whatever, see it spread out there in terms of the choices and where it's going to go. Like, this looks like something I can't wait to play. So I'm excited for that, imminently here in July, getting my hands on that. And then, of course, being a Persona fan or, Lapsed fan, however you want to do it, but loving Persona 3, loving Persona 4, right? incredible that they're coming over here eventually, right? Persona 5 being the first one to jump in October. That'll be here for everybody, which is huge. And again, as somebody who has tried multiple times and fallen off of Persona 5, I do wonder, this is now Xbox Game Pass. This is going to be in the cloud. Like, will that be different for me? Will that be a game that I'm going to actually, pop on the backbone and play a little bit on my phone here and there and chip away at Persona 5 that way? I don't know. Kojima was a big announcement. And then, I'm excited for that. I love Kojima. But then Starfield, I thought for me was a great presentation. For me, it was a game that I look at and you go, well, yes, it's a Bethesda game. Yes, it's No Man's Sky. But I also felt like I saw the good stuff of Cyberpunk layered in there, the stuff you loved about Mass Effect. I think we've looked so hard for another Mass Effect since Mass Effect 3 and the end of the trilogy, right? And so to see the choices for your character's backstory, to see how they're going to go through the upgrade tree and your perks and, have challenges for your weapons that would then enhance what your skills are. I love that kind of shit in an RPG, especially a Bethesda RPG, and to have it be that expansive, to see you walking through there, what gets me excited was talking to the characters in there, seeing the NPCs, and the one character who looked like the collector that Tim called out, and then the one woman who was talking to us when we were here. It's like, I thought they looked good. I thought they looked better than what you usually see, or what we've seen before. I shouldn't say usually, but what we saw in Fallout 4, which was obviously quite a while ago. Like, I'm excited for a meaty Bethesda RPG with what seems to be limitless potential on where to go and how all those systems go and where that narrative goes.
Is that something that worries you though? Because that's something that when Todd started talking about how and you have these many planets and it expands out, you can go to different systems. That's one that immediately gave me flashbacks of the No Man's Sky stuff.
Sure.
Them talking about them repeatedly talking about the quintillion planets that you can go to.
Sure.
Right. And I feel Andy brought up that it must be to some extent procedurally generated in terms of how they generate the planets to make a universe that's that expansive.
Yeah.
But I think you get with procedural generation is the lack of TLC in terms of here are all these different characters and stories that we've actually written and actually created. Do you have a fear that you're going to get to a planet and it's just, okay, no, it's just iron. I'm just here to mine.
I mean, I think honestly, the majority of planets will be like that. Because I think he goes out of his way to talk about a Goldilocks planet, right? That would have life on it, indicating that, we're not going to find, every system won't be filled with possible Earths. You're going to have different things there, right? And so I think when you get into that, you're going to see, I would assume, at least 1 to 2 planets in every system you go to having something on them in terms of a narrative and NPC, something that would drag you there. But then when I go to if I'm just going to a random system and a random planet, I'm not expecting to find something awesome. I hope there will be. I hope there'll be things you'll find. I'm sure there'll be hidden secrets there and stuff like that. But I am more in it for the narrative, right, of joining this peacekeeping group and going through and seeing what that evolves into. But again, we'll talk about Starfield later, I'm sure. Mike, back to you.
Thank you, Greg. We will be talking a lot of Starfield. Of course, I got to kick it over to my man, Andy Cortez, because I need to know his impressions from the show. Andy, we talked about Summer Game Fest with Jeff Keighley. How are you feeling now on Sunday with Team Xbox and Bethesda?
Loved it. Loved this showcase. I thought the pacing was fantastic. And I think the most important thing for me is getting glimpses of games that I didn't expect to see or expect to be into. And immediately I think of Flintlock. I thought that was a title that looked really awesome. Cocoon is one of those unknowns. It's always like, will the unknowns excite you aside from the bigger titles that we sort of come to expect? And getting the limitation of, hey, the next 12 months is what we're going to see. Unfortunately, on this graphic, Silksong is not on there. And that hurts. That makes me very scared, Mike. And Silksong not being on here is kind of a bummer. But looking at all of these looking at all these games coming out, the ones that are coming to Xbox Game Pass, Riot, having that Riot reveal whatever this partnership is going to be, I don't know what it means for the future of whatever this partnership could be, but it's just really awesome that it happened at all. Getting an Overwatch 2 date is awesome for me. I'm very stoked about that. Redfall, a game that I have not really been super excited for, just based on what we thought it was going to be. I think it looked and presented a lot better, and a lot of that, I think the music choice is fantastic. A game like Wolong Fallen Dynasty, another one of those games that you don't really know to expect from one of these showcases, and you see it and you're impressed, and it adds excitement to the overall excitement level because you just weren't expecting to see a game like that pop up. I think not even being a Persona fan, having that Persona news is fucking gigantic. That's like a really big
wild.
reveal that it's crazy. Like it's something
that's
that just,
when That's one
nobody
that
expected.
I forgot to bring that up when I was talking about it. Like that's probably my biggest pop for this showcase, and like I think that goes to show how many different things they had that were dope as fuck here. But the section of the Japanese games where Phil comes down and is like, hey, like y'all, for the people who have been paying attention, y'all know that we've been trying to get more Japanese games on the platform and rep that more because that's the thing that's been lacking for Xbox over the last 2 decades. The fact that he comes out is able to announce like Persona 3, 4, and 5, and it is the dope versions of those games. I actually don't know much about if that's the dope version of Persona 3. Maybe Barrett or Greg could probably inform me more. But
That's
that's
Fez.
it was portable.
Well, it's portable. Some cool things are from portable. Some cool things are from FES. There's no like one definitive version, so it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't of like which version they were gonna pick. But portable is still gonna be a really great version for people to check out.
And that's something that, you know, no matter the platform, I feel like I, as a PlayStation dude, right? Like I've been asking for that forever. I've been looking for a reason to go back and play Persona 3 on an actual, you know, modern platform. The fact that Xbox were able to get that at their show for a franchise that has been not associated with Xbox, maybe ever, right? Like being able to get that, I think, is so huge.
It's a franchise that only the spin-offs have ever come to Xbox. Like you got the fighting games 10 years ago before you got any of these games actually coming to the platform. It's truly wild.
Yeah, and I think like just having that Megaton announcement, we've been saying Megaton a lot, I think, because Keeley kind of put that into my in the vernacular of the past couple of weeks or so. But I think that's such a massive thing to have on the show, and that excites me as somebody who doesn't even really care about Persona. I think that adds so much more value to this presentation. I thought the Forza Horizon Hot Wheels stuff looked awesome. Getting Plague Tale Requiem gameplay, having the reveal of, again, Cocoon, the director of Limbo and Inside. I think this was as close to a 5 out of 5 as you can get, especially with the pacing. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 because I think it was missing like 2 or 3 bigger game announcements that would have been really exciting. And but I think once I see this morning that Jason Schreier is talking about Avowed kind of being reset in the way that Everwild is being reset and having issues with development. I think once I see... Huh?
I said you motherfuckers doubted me because I had the passive comment of saying that maybe Avowed gets canceled or something like that. But sorry, go on.
Oh, I mean, well, it hasn't been canceled, bless, so I'm still doubting him. But the fact that it's having some sort of dev issues... and then when they come out and say everything you see here is going to be in the next 12 months, I immediately I check Avowed off my list. Like I just kind of mentally am making those notes so I know what to expect. And yeah, I think this is really close to a 5 out of 5. I still think if it had 3 or 4 more big surprise announcements, it would have been a 5 out of 5 for me. But I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I thought it was fantastic. Again, the pacing was great and there was minimal talking.
Solid. Guys,
Mike,
thank you all
what'd you
so
think?
much for giving that. And I'm about to bring it, Greg Miller, because, you know, I'm the king of spicy takes this week. And I actually am going to give it a 4 out of 5 on presentation. I think they got a good 95 minutes out of this. Great music, good pacing. But actually, I'm going to be a little bit harsher than all of you guys here. I'm going to give this actually a 3 out of 5. I think the games are where it was lacking. And I was really unimpressed with what I saw there. I think there were some good standouts that we'll talk about. But there was no big, oh, wow moment. I need an Xbox for this game. And I think that is what we're talking about here when we look at Xbox and what we've been expecting. And yeah, you kind of limit that by saying, hey, these are the games coming in the next 12 months. But none of those games truly wowed me to the point where I was like, I got to tell my mom, my dad, everybody they know that Xbox is the place to play, right? Starfield looked great. We're going to talk about that. I'm very excited. Redfall actually did not wow me in that kind of way. I know it's going to be more of a Left 4 Dead, Back 4 Blood, Borderlands type game, but honestly, it was not wowing right there. I'm telling you, when I look at this lineup that they gave us, there was 33 announcements and only 7 impressed me or excited me, and none of the games truly screamed at me, oh my god, this is the next generation of gameplay, this is what Xbox is going to do. And I think this is something we've talked about with Xbox. 23 studios where are the games? Where are the wowing moments? Like when we look on the other side, right? We talk about PlayStation, we see Uncharted, we see Last of Us, we see Horizon. None of the games showed here today were any of that quality or caliber, and that is sad. Coming out of another Xbox presentation where as Xbox gamers, we want that level of quality. We want that kind of like just wowing game, and none of these were there. But I mean, of course, you got to give them credit, right? The partnership with Riot is a big one. I think we all thought they were going to partner up with Ubisoft and give us that. I think Riot's even better than Ubisoft, in my opinion, right? Getting all of the League of Legends characters,
Way better.
that's hundreds of dollars out there. It's unbelievable, right? I love that partnership. I go down, I think Plague's Tale Requiem did look good, but like, that's a smaller audience. I don't think that's going to be everybody and their mother playing that, being wowed by that. Like it's The Last of Us over here. You talk about Forza, right? Forza's going back to the track. This is not Forza Horizon 5. This will not be the Game of the Year contender like Forza Horizon 5 was, where it was IGN's Game of the Year over all other games. We're going to go to the track. It's going to be a different market, a different space. It looks good, but I'm telling you, after playing Gran Turismo 7, right, this isn't a game that everybody's going to talk about at the end of the year. I love that we're getting Hot Wheels in July for Forza Horizon 5. That game has now been out 7 months, and it is time for DLC, and they needed that, right? Then we look over at the opposite side. Diablo 4 did not wow. I think Diablo 4 came out and really did not put on the show that Diablo 4 needs to put on, right? We were looking at it, we were like, is this Diablo? Is this Gollum? What the hell game is this? If you're bringing out Diablo, you got to bring Diablo. And I think they did a good job at the end talking with Dev Diaries, but they missed that vibe with Diablo that I really expected for them. Kojima, that's great. That's a talking head. I mean, of course, we're excited for Kojima. I'm on the Kojima trial. I'm on the high right now of Kojima, but like really nothing there. But that was one of my 7. And so for me, I look at this and I go, the games just weren't it. I expected more out of the games. I know we limited it to 12 months, but I thought we were going to get something more wowing and something to really elevate that. And so that's my thought. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 compared to everybody else's 4s. But let's break down the show and let's talk about some of our favorite moments from the show right after a word from our sponsors.
Are people still trying to make plans with you this summer as if you aren't booked and busy already? You're just gonna have to tell them to try again in the fall. You've got pool days, pride parades, bachelor parties, and beach vacations waiting for you, because when you're living your best life, the last thing you want to worry about is butt sweat. I'm Greg Miller, and my butt never sweats because I wear MeUndies. You've heard it a million times. I like MeUndies so much. From the first pair, I bought a whole bunch more and threw away the rest of my underwear. They're the best. MeUndies has the lightest, most breathable fabrics to keep you cool and comfortable wherever you go. From undies to bralettes to socks to loungewear to swimwear, you can find something for all your plans. MeUndies also releases new prints all the time, like their limited edition Pride collection. Find your ultimate summer comfort in sizes extra small to 4XL. MeUndies has a great offer for my listeners. For any first-time purchasers, you get 15% off. For a limited time, if you sign up for their free-to-join MeUndies membership, you get 25% off your first membership item. To get 15% off your first order, 25% off your first membership item, and 100% satisfaction guaranteed, go to MeUndies.com/kindafunny. That's MeUndies.com/kindafunny. No one likes waiting on a paycheck, especially when you've got bills due. Good thing there's Chime. Now you can get your paycheck up to 2 days earlier with direct deposit. That's up to 2 more days to save, pay bills, and generally just feel good about your money situation. But Chime is about more than just getting paid early. It's also an award-winning mobile app, checking account, debit card, and optional savings account. So what are you waiting for? Hopefully not your paycheck. Get started with Chime today. Applying for a free account takes less than 2 minutes. Get started at chime.com/kfgames. That's chime.com/kfgames. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank or Stride Bank N.A. Members FDIC. Early access to direct deposit funds depends on your payer.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to a word from our sponsors. Now we're going to break down the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase. Of course, there was 33 announcements that I counted on this here piece of paper that I wrote on. This is an Amazon like lunch pail, so you know I had to keep up with all of it. But of course, I want to hear, maybe everybody's like, give me 2, 3, 4, 5 of some of your favorite moments. Blessing, I want to start with you. Give me some of the games that really stood out to you, and let's talk about it.
I mean, I'd like to start with Redfall. I feel like that's gonna be a very fun conversation to have, because That's one that I've been looking forward to as somebody who is really into Arcane for the last year since they've announced it. And I've been looking forward to it in the way that I've had questions about it. Like, what is this game? What does it play like? I feel like with the debut trailer we got last year, right? Like, they talked about it being a co-op open world game. And that came with so many questions. And I think we've had the back and forth of, is it Borderlands? Is it Left 4 Dead? Like, how does this land? And actually seeing gameplay, the thing that I like actually looking at the footage right now is that it reminds me of Deathloop in art style, right? Like the way he's holding the gun, the way that like the character models look, the way that the environment,
Colors, right? The colors.
the colors, the pop of it, and it's capitalizing on the things that I know Arcane can do well, and it's giving me the things that I've been asking for in terms of elevate what you did in Deathloop, right? Like give me the weapon system of like the different legendary statuses for the gear, right? Like give me cool different loadouts I can do, but then like expand and figure out what you can learn from games like Left 4 Dead or games like Borderlands. I like what they did or what they showed for different character classes. Again, reminds me of Borderlands in terms of I already forget the character names, but like this character does this, right? Like the main girl character that they
Mose.
show, Mose. Is
I don't know
Mose
why
one
I
of them?
just remember Mose. She was like a little turret girl, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, from Borderlands 3.
She didn't
Oh,
look that
gotcha,
good.
gotcha. From this?
Yeah, when she pops up with that like pink bubble shield, that didn't look that good.
Oh,
In
see,
my
that's
opinion.
what I was gonna shout out. Is like I love
Yeah.
that they're doing that kind of thing, right?
I love the humor of it too with the, what is it, the telekinetic with student debt. I fucked it up, and it rhymed when they put it up. I thought that was cute.
Yeah, and like that's the
Ultimate
thing is,
threat. Yeah.
yeah, like they're keeping a specific tone with this game that I think is going to make it stand out and actually feel like something that not only is leaning in with the great Arcane sense of art direction and style, but then also adding in more life, making it more funny. Deathloop was felt more funny in its tone a lot of the time. I like that they're continuing that, and I don't know, I'm excited for this game. I think this game looks dope as fuck.
Yeah, I
100%
agree.
agree.
I think I had been sort of putting this game in this area that, like in my own mind, we had kept on saying that it was going to be oh god, what's that fucking multiplayer game? Bless.
Bleeding Edge.
Outriders.
Bleeding Edge, yeah. In my mind, I kept on kind of like creating this idea that this was going to hold them off until their next big title, until the next Deathloop or the next
Yeah, next
Dishonored or
Dishonored.
whatever the hell that they wanted to do. That this one might be just something to kind of generate some revenue. So I'd been kind of making this one, I think, a little less hype and a little less presentable in my mind. I think this game showed really well. I do think the fact that it is going to be this sort of Borderlands type, every character has their classes with their sets of powers. Everybody's kind of bringing a different set of abilities to the area whenever you want to team up with your friends. I think it looks awesome as hell. I was not expecting to be as high on Redfall today as I would have said before the show started.
You saw skill trees too, right?
Yeah.
Was that a thing in the trailer? Like stuff like that excites me. I think like I like that they're really going for it in terms of the depth of being able to get in there, change your character, and all that stuff. And like I want to see more from it.
That's the biggest takeaway for me is I thought it had a great presentation. I loved the humor of it. I loved the visual art style, and I loved the action that I saw. And what I think is always a compliment to a game like this is that it stood out. It opened the show. I'm still thinking about it, and yeah, now I want to go see what else has been published since this ended, right? Usually blog posts will come or there'll be some tweets. Like, I need to know more about it because, yeah, is it, as we were walking through, like, how do the classes work? Is it Left 4 Dead where we all have to be one person? And then the fact that they, say you can play solo or with your friends and stuff like this seems like right up my alley, right up our alley as people who stream a bunch of fun games like this all the time. Like, I want to know more about this. I'm actually like really, really hungry for information, which before this, I was like, all right, cool. Redfall, multiplayer thing from Arcane. Like, I like Arcane sometimes. Let's see what it's going to be. But like, this looks right up my alley. I'm really excited by what I saw.
Yeah, for me, the Arcane games come down to gameplay. That's what makes Arcane games so special. I think once we all start playing it, it will probably be a different tone for me when it comes to gameplay wise. But looks, visuals, the idea of what we're building here with this multiplayer or single player game that just kind of feels middle of the road to me. I'm just not impressed by Redfall. And I knew that coming in when we saw this last year, or at least the teaser trailer, the conversation around this. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to vibe with this, and I don't know if this is going to be that big of a game, right? I think a lot of people will jump on this on Game Pass. We'll see big numbers, but what will the tail end of this be? I will be wowed to see if they can really surprise me halfway through this game without getting repetitive and boring here.
I mean, they talk about it being an open world shooter on their Twitter bio. Like, I'm like, let's fucking go. This sounds good.
I need it to be a game with an ending. That doesn't necessarily need to have this constant persistence and this constant need and urge to go back. Because I think games like that really discourage me with wanting to go back. Like a game when Borderlands 3 came out, I played the shit out of it. I beat it, and I was like, cool, I'm done with Borderlands 3, and that was a hell of a good time. And that's what I need from this. I don't really want something that's a Destiny type thing where you're constantly like, sure, you can have end game stuff for the people that really crave that experience, but I would love to just be able to beat this campaign and say, all right, that was 25 hours and it was solid, and I had a blast with friends using all these cool powers and making my character have the build that kind of benefits my play style. That's really all I'm looking for, and I think that's what this is going to be.
Andy,
That's
do
exactly
you
what this
do you
is gonna
think
be.
do you think it's going to end up being that? Because like I kind of get the vibe from this that this might be a Sea of Thieves type game, where a couple years down the line we're seeing Redfall at Xbox press conferences and they're talking about updates and all that type of stuff. And sure, that might just we'll have to see next year if like there is that initial like excitement and stuff. But I mean, remember Sea of Thieves didn't have that. But I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think. I mean, I don't. I'm not going to say it will never get updates. I got to assume that there will be a DLC story thing later or a new dungeon type thing that you can have
I think
near
you're
the
likely
end.
to see I'm sorry, Andy. I think you're likely to see what you saw with Borderlands, right? Where
Yeah.
you can play through this open world shooter with your friends and stop and never come back, or you can sit there for every DLC drop, every seasonal event, stuff like that.
I guess.
Yeah, I think of Sea of Thieves more of a persistent experience with kind of creating your character and role playing, and this seems more like all of these classes seem very different for a reason.
I think it's going to be very much like Outriders. In the way that Outriders comes out, I remember going on the come up to Outriders. They kept saying, "Hey, this is not a games as a service. We're just putting out this game," and like people keep like asking us about like ongoing content. We don't have a plan. We're just putting out the game. And then a year, like 6 months, a year later, you have the content drops for it that are, "Hey, here's 10 more hours of like content for you to play and go through." And I wouldn't be surprised to see it be all right, Redfall is a, let's say, 20-hour game, right? You play through it with your friends. There's a campaign. I'm sure there is going to be a mode where you go through and do like maybe an endless thing, or like how Outriders had the post game stuff where it was just go through, play as best as you can, and you get a score or whatever. But then maybe like a year after Redfall launches, they launch Redfall October or whatever that is, like here's a small expansion to like give you that 10 more hours of content for you to play with your friends and return.
Hey Bear, can you roll back the Redfall stuff and pause on the skill tree and the weapon thing? Just I just like a glance at that.
It's so quick. It's hard to find.
I hear you. If it's too hard or
I'll
whatever,
try to
I
find it
know.
for you.
Yeah, because that again, I'm interested in how that works again. Because the game doesn't strike me as you can have 4 of the same types. You know what I mean? Like in the way they. Granted, I'm going off of the cinematic trailer they just showed, right? Of like the fact when you run through something like that and you introduce characters, usually that means like this is going to be 4, kind of like a Gotham Knights thing. So I wonder then for skill trees and upgrades and open world solo or with people, how are we going to have that? Is it going to be that I'm rolling 4 different types, you know what I mean, or 2 different types that I play one with Mike's group and I play another with? Well, I wouldn't play with anybody else. Mike, I love you.
No,
Greg. We're gonna play this. It's gonna be good.
I do very much think it's going to be like Borderlands, where you can have 2 or 3 of the same people. I don't think it's going to be like Left 4 Dead, where all right, we're in a new campaign, hop in and you pick the player that nobody else has picked yet. I do very much think it's going to be your character that you are leveling up.
See, and I love a skill tree like this.
Yeah.
Ooh, God, does this get me going?
And like, there's gonna be like
Here's some weapons.
A year after, you're gonna get a new character class introduced as DLC, like that type of shit.
Sword remnants, blood remnants, soul remnants. Got some different weapons, rarities here.
Get deep in there, Greg. Get deep into this menu.
Look at this,
right
17. He's a level 17 Devinder. All right. He's got 2,925 space vampire bucks up there. Yeah, that's what I
This weapon has a 770 support value. Definitely some Destiny vibes.
You see the reduced spread per fire. That's fire. That's good. The
like
magazine size increased.
Love that.
I'm gonna fuck up some vamps. All right.
Yeah.
I also wanted to say I didn't really get to talk about it during my section because I just forgot, but again, I'm not generally somebody who gravitates towards Bethesda games. I was never a fan of Fallout. I just always thought that it looked ugly. And Skyrim, I put 20 hours in and never went back to it. Starfield looks so goddamn impressive. And the only thing I'm worried about is it maybe trying to do too much? Is it going to I had the same vibes watching this that I did during every Cyberpunk presentation of like, I can't believe this is a real game. There's no way. And that does give me a little bit of pause, because what if it is trying to be a little too much and maybe there are some systems that are underdeveloped or some things that just don't work out as good. I thought every part of this presentation looked fucking fantastic. And some people in the chat were saying they didn't like the combat or the conversation type stuff where people are looking at the camera and, oh, the eyes look weird. I thought every part of this looked awesome, knowing that this is going to be a gigantic open universe galaxy, whatever you want to call it, game. And you're not going to get Last of Us cinematics and characters whenever you're talking to them, because of just how expansive everything is. A lot of the animations you're seeing are going to be procedural because you can't hand animate every mouth and lip sync. All that being said, this game looks fucking cool as hell, and I want to build a spaceship, and I want to dogfight, and I want to maybe land on a planet where I'm going to experience a side quest that is missable, because there's nothing I love more than that, than knowing that, like, oh, I could have not
missing a side
experienced.
quest.
I could have not experienced this had I just not looked
yeah.
for it. Like, I think that's the coolest shit. And when you get together with your friends and talk about your experiences and, wait, where the fuck did you see that? Oh, that's in Alpha Centauri 12X3. Oh, good.
Yeah.
I got to go over there now. This game looks awesome. The lighting looks incredible. I'm so happy that I can now play a Bethesda game and not think, God, this looks so gross to be in.
Wow.
This looks amazing.
Andy, I'm with you. Like, I thought, it's always, eye of the beholder kind of thing. And I know that obviously you're more the action game guy than I am. I thought the gunplay looked good. You know what I mean? I think
I have no problem with that.
And again, I'm comparing it, I think, as a Fallout fan to what I usually do in Fallout, and how VATS, of course, is always put there because, hey, guess what? It's terrible to aim in Fallout games. I thought this looks fun. This looks like stuff I would like to do. And I thought at the end of the gameplay demo, when he did the run up, or they did the run up, shot a bunch of dudes, and then jetpacked over to where they were coming out and came down and started shooting those guys up, I was like, yeah, that's what I want. And for me, it's like, what a good lock pick this is too. Well, this is a great lock pick. Don't listen to Mike.
Well, hold up, Greg. This is a new lock pick mechanic, so I like this now. I don't like the old one. I'm glad we figured out a new one. So
you saw some digit picks there too. So if you want to just spend your currency,
I'm kind of sad they changed the lock pick.
Yeah,
well, I like the lockpick.
Oh, get out of here, Bless.
Yeah,
We've done that for decades. It's time for a new lockpick.
Do you not respect tradition? Like, it's part of the tradition of Bethesda.
Blessing, come on, bro. What are we, old people now? We're not doing that anymore. New stuff, please.
Yeah.
Anyways, I thought all this looked great, and this is something I'm into. My concerns with it, again, as somebody who. I just did another recent run of No Man's Sky where I did the same thing I always do, where I play 20, 25 hours of it and then put it down and then get distracted and never come back. Like, the going through here and the mining and of course base building, never 100% my jam. I think building your spaceship looks awesome here.
Yeah.
I think they made it sound like, you can hire people to run your outposts and stuff like that. Maybe I can hire somebody just to make them or not even have to engage with it. Maybe I'm just some kind of runner and gunner out there, whatever my class is going to be. For me, it was more the opening of exploring the moon and walking up. I thought that looked a little barren. Like I know, like, this is one planet, this is one approach, this is one whatever. Getting inside, getting into the combat, that seems fun. And I really think that if the game is as open as they say it is, and it is as cool as they make it out to be, it's going to be able to be, okay, cool. Like, the ship is my home base. That's what I fucking roll as. I'm not doing the research on the planets. That's not who my character is. I am a, whatever.
I'm a pirate, bro.
A Han Solo type, yeah, right? Where I live on the Millennium Falcon and we
Bounty
just go out
hunter.
and run stuff, yeah.
The ship customization looks awesome. Like, that's the thing that got me super excited while watching. Because again, like, so much of this game feels like it's them really doubling down and building off of the semi elements that they did in Fallout 4. And they're like, I think Bethesda really likes the idea of making something that can be experienced like a survival sim, right, while being an open world RPG. And I think it's such a tough thing to balance. But it seems like this could be the one where they get it perfect. Like, I think if they knock that stuff out the park, then this is going to be a game that people are playing for a long time, because it has those things where you can come back after a year and go, oh yeah, let me just, continue to add toward my settlement. Let me go mine some resources. Like, I think they really want to make that type of game. And the stuff they showed here, I thought looked good in that stuff, right? Like, I love the idea that you can make a spaceship, go into space, and then dogfight. Like, that sounds like a dream.
Yeah, as long as it isn't too overly ambitious and doesn't try to get in its own way. And I think that's my main concern when you're trying to make a game that's futuristic, right? Because I've mentioned it before. When you're making a fantasy game, you can build in your limitations due to the lack of like just technology. But in a game like this, where theoretically your ship can go anywhere and you can kind of land anywhere, or like the only limitations that are really put in this game are there from the developers, how much will we see that, start to kind of how soon will we see the walls, that are put up by the developers, where you land on a cool space station and it's awesome as hell and it's one floor, but there's all these other floors up there in the skyline and I can't really go there because it's just set dressing, you know what I mean? And that it'll start to kind of feel disappointing at that moment.
Yeah, agreed with all of you guys. I think Starfield delivered on what I was expecting here for the showcase. I think once we go hands on the controller, it's going to come down to, will Bethesda have the bugs and have some of the jank that it's also known for? And also the planets are what worry me, as Andy talks about set dressing and how much is really explorable. You put that big of a number on explorable planets. I expect that when I show up to something, there needs to be a wow factor moment on each one. There needs to be a reason to go there. If we see a lot of inhabitable planets and there's nothing going on there, I think that's a big miss. I think you really got to have a reason to go to these planets and be wowed there each time.
I think it's purely going to be resources. Like Greg talking about it kind of made me recontextualize it as, you're going to have certain planets that are what they call them, the Goldilocks planets.
Yeah, Goldilocks planets.
Where it is cool. This is where the story stuff is. Like, this is where you get inside.
I don't get that. Why is it called Goldilocks?
Because it's just right.
Remember the story? Yeah, exactly. It's just right for life. This is too hot. This is too cold. This one's just right.
That's actually pretty cool.
It's very hard to make.
But I do think that's where you're gonna get the meat of the story, right? Quests, talking to other characters, all that stuff. Whereas like I think the expansive stuff, like the theoretically procedurally generated, like just throwing out the planets, are going to be purely for, oh man, I need some ore. Like I need some iron, or like, I don't know, resources. I need grass. I need rocks grass to build a house. I think that's purely what that's going to be. Like you go off and like land on a planet to find that stuff. And maybe it is, oh man, this planet happens to have iron and rabbits I can kill for the meat or whatever the fuck. And you're going to have those experiences. But I don't know if you're going to find actual cool side quests or cool unique bits there. I hope you do. But that is the fear I do have about it.
Well, I do think that finding those side quests are going to be similar to finding a random outpost where you happen to talk to an NPC that then gives you a, maybe 4 or 5 mission long side quest that you weren't really expecting. And those are things that I'm excited for, especially when we see the way Elden Ring started to roll out, kind of not DLC, but they would update their game 3 weeks after it came out and be like, hey, we kind of expanded the side quest. Go check out this part and go see what these NPCs have to say. If we can get some sort of updates in that way where, it never has to necessarily be a big DLC drop, right? We don't need 3 months down the line. All right, you have to wait 6 months or 3 months or whatever. Here is a big DLC pack where you're going to get all these cool different side missions. I love the idea of just, hey, we're updating this dialogue tree from this one NPC. Go talk to them, see what they have to say now. I think the possibilities are endless having this sort of open galaxy and being able to go to a lot of these planets. And maybe this one planet never had something. Maybe it does now,
Real quick, I know we're talking Starfield. Sorry, I want to drop some information about the questions we had about Redfall. Some interviews are starting to pop, and over at IGN, Matt Purslow has one. He confirms in his interview with Arcane that yes, you can in fact play co-op with all the same character class. You don't have to work the same character, and that they're really trying to spin this around about it. It is still a single player, right? Matt's been going through this whole thing, right? Talking about his opening is talking about like, how are they going to do the messy chaos of cooperative open worlds? A year later, I've learned that, well, they haven't. The minds behind Redfall are determined to translate Arcane's trademark smarts into a game that can be enjoyed by 4 cooperating players and begins with what the studio has always done best, single player. And this article is talking about the fact that everything's infused with stories you go through, and they're not trying to make Left 4 Dead. Fans of the studio's previous work will no doubt be relieved that all the elements are accounted for, and Redfall isn't, as some feared, a Left 4 Dead replica. Obviously, this is a very expansive interview. Those are the highlights, though, as we just came off Redfall with those questions.
Those are solid right there. Tim Geddes, I'm going to kick it to you. A game that was not Starfield or Redfall. What wowed you that wasn't any of those?
Out of the whole showcase, there was only 3 games I put down as the Tim approved. Like, these are games I definitely want to play. One of them I just want to say I'm an asshole for, and that is Hollow Knight Silksong. I'm looking at that. I'm like, this looks like the best game ever. And here I am. Why have I not fucking played Hollow Knight all the way through? Like I keep doing that first hour and look at this. It's fucking perfect. Andy, you're absolutely right. You have the best taste here. But moving on from that,
Wow.
the other two for me, one being Cocoon. Love Limbo, love Inside. Love the idea of what they're showing here with like a lot of the puzzle solving and all of that. It wowed me when they did the kind of going into the little orbs and like opening up these new worlds and getting smaller and smaller or whatever the hell's happening. I'm rarely wowed like that from just a visual effect, and so I thought that was really cool. I will say, like from that team, like I really like the 2D platformer stuff that they do with Limbo and Inside. So this is kind of
This isn't Playdead though, right? Like this
No.
is a spin-off.
It's from the creator of
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it's different enough that like I'm interested. Like, is this going to kind of nail it the way that that those games did for me? And I think that what I love about them so much is kind of like the storytelling aspect of everything. And this seems a bit more focused on the puzzle side of it, which could work very well, and it seems very cool.
That's the thing, is like I think the thing that got me excited was knowing that one, like when you look at this art style, this is something very different from what they've done with Inside and Limbo, because both those games were very dark. Well, at least Limbo was very dark, right? Inside had like, you know, a very unsaturated look, and this is very colorful, very vibrant. But then like, you know, talking about Inside, Inside I think is a perfect video game. Like mechanically, the way the puzzle design works, right? Like it flows so perfectly. It has such a good length, and every single action you do in that game seems like it has like animation for it, right? Like every single puzzle feels like it's so tailor made. It has so much, such a high level of detail in like the solutions, in how you solve it, in like how it flows back into what's going on in the world itself. Those games are so expertly crafted. And I think if you see that, like if you look at Cocoon, if Cocoon has that level of expertise put into it, I think this game is going to be insane.
Yeah, and so I'm very, very hopeful for that. I do like that it's different. I do like that it is kind of focused more on the puzzle side of things, because the puzzles in those games were excellent, especially Inside. But for me, the biggest one was the last case of Benedict Fox. When it first popped up, I was like, this looks cool. It sounds cool. Digging the vibe. And then as the trailer went on, the more and more I was just making a mental note. I'm like, I can't wait to rewatch this trailer and like really get into the different environments and stuff, because it continued to wow me. Like the varied locales and everything they got going on, all the different visual styles and little things that we've seen before in a ton of different games. But I feel like this is kind of taking a lot of things that I've loved and throwing them all into one. I love the type of Metroidvania style that it's going for. I love the creepiness of whatever's going on story-wise. Plot Twist is one of the dopest names for a studio I've ever heard. And I'm getting major Artful Escape meets Ori vibes. And on the Xbox side of things, those are some of my favorite games I played on the console in the last couple years. So it's hard for me not to be extremely excited about this. Spring 2023 seems a little far away, but this is exactly what I want to see from this type of showcase, where I've never heard of it and now I can't wait for it. And I love this, like the black and white stuff. Like this is so Ori looking. Like, yeah, let's go.
Those are some solid games right there, Tim, and I'm really glad that you brought up a couple right there. Before I kick it over to Greg, because there were some Greg Ask Greg games here that we need to talk about, I want to kick it over to our producer, the man who runs the Kinda Funny Xcast each and every week, Barrett Courtney. Barrett Courtney, I got two things for you. One, of course, I want to know some of your favorite games from the showcase, since you're always ride or die with me and my gaming dads. But two, over the past couple of months, the Xbox fans, it says, Barrett Courtney, we want Persona. Barrett, when will Persona come? And you crushed our dreams each and every week. How do you feel about Persona now coming over to Xbox with Game Pass?
I'm so fucking stoked for the Xbox side of the Persona fan base, who have been itching for any mainline game to come to the Xbox platform. They've gotten all the spin-off games, or maybe just the fighting game like 10 years ago, but never any of the main games. And I'm so pumped for that. I always said, don't expect it, because Atlas will crush your dreams. These games were weirdly only on PlayStation when it comes to the mainline games. You know, fans. Well, because a bunch of other Atlas games are on other platforms. Blessed. It's just weird that it's only spin-offs that go to other platforms, but none of the mainline titles. It's just like a very weird decision. And for years, fans were saying, bring these to Switch. And like before we even got like I think like really like Xbox like really championing for these games to come like in the last year, but like for as long as I've been at KindaFunny, people have been wanting these games to come to Switch, and literally nothing on that end. And like really interesting updates. I think one Jonathan Dornbush was texting me earlier of on their website, they only list Xbox. They only list Xbox and like Windows for this. So with these games coming to Game Pass and stuff like that, I think it's very interesting, especially with PlayStation Plus revamped launching tomorrow in the US. Like literally no word on PlayStation side of these games coming, which is just absolutely wild to me. Again, we'll see like over the course of a few years if they decide to bring it to other places, especially with like Persona 4 Golden kind of like randomly dropping on PC a year ago, and then finally we get this update like a little over a year later. But I'm stoked. I absolutely play these games. Y'all have been yelling about it for the last year or so. So now play them. They're really special. Persona 4 Golden, I know, is the one that really got Greg in. I really love Persona 5 Royal. Persona 3, I haven't played, but I know the story of, and that is also like a absolutely special story. Just know that it's the portable version, so a lot of it's going to feel a little dated and stuff like that, but it's still a fantastic a story and cast of characters to hang out with and kind of learn about. Persona 5 Royal is my favorite game of all time. Absolutely play that. Hang out with Takuto Maruki. The voice actor for Maruki actually just passed earlier last week. And, you know, I always talk about how he gave a fantastic performance to that.
Best character in that game.
Yeah, to the best character in that game and arguably the best character in that series. So y'all asked for it. Y'all got it. Now play them. And, you know, maybe Persona 6 will launch multi-platform at this point.
Okay, well now you're asking for too much.
You flew too close to the sun at the
I
end.
don't know. Am I asking for too much for getting these three games coming to Game Pass and literally no mention of like PlayStation Plus, no mention of Switch? Like, I'm just saying, man.
I do think it's. I am fascinated.
I wonder
to see
what's
if one
going
of
on
these
with
games-
Atlas and Sony right now.
I'm very curious to see if one of
Money.
these games actually come to Switch and other platforms. Just because, like, you know, I think these games coming to Xbox is the floodgate starting to open in terms of these games being more, and I feel like this has been for a while, but like we've not actually seen movement on it. These games being more viable for that audience. You know, I've always viewed Persona coming to PlayStation as that's the audience that makes most sense for it, because, you know, Japanese games on PlayStation works, right? Like the one Xbox historically hasn't had a great presence in Japan, and for Persona, I think historically that's just been such a big juggernaut of a game in Japan, and so it's not made as much sense for them to bring it to other platforms. The fact that it's coming to Xbox now, I think is huge, right? And I do think that, to your point, like if it comes out if Persona 6 comes out cross-platform, then like that's gonna be big for everybody, like especially for Xbox.
Not that it's a guarantee that it won't by any stretch of the imagination. I think this does mean that eventually these things are going to come to Switch and be multi-platform as well. But Xbox has clearly been spending a lot of money to get those Japanese back catalogs for games. When you look at the Yakuza games, or specifically the Final Fantasy games, where pretty much all of them, if not all of them at this point, are on Game Pass. But Final Fantasy 16 is still going to be PlayStation exclusive. So Persona 6, I don't think that this is necessarily a sign that it will be multi-plat, but hey, anything's possible, and they're not the same companies.
Greg Miller, I want to kick it over to you. I have a little two-parter for you. Part one, of course, I want to know what games you were excited for, because, of course, you and I are circling As Dusk Falls coming out July 19th. We're excited for that. Up to 8 players. Kind of giving me Quarry vibes about that, Greg, where we can all play and vote. But I want to talk about Kojima, because you're my man, the myth, the legend. You have met the man, the myth, the legend, Kojima. When we talk about Kojima and we talk about cloud and the technology that he's going to be able to leverage, are you running your mind crazy thinking of, like, will it be another Strand game like Death Stranding? What will he create? What do you think the timeline really is on a Kojima game now, knowing that he is working with Xbox? Of course, it is not what we thought Tom Henderson leaked with that horror game. What do you think on that one, Greg?
I mean, I would buy it as a horror game. I think that is something he's been vocal about wanting to make. The Tom Henderson thing's weird because maybe that was just an internal trailer, right? That was being pushed around to show around Xbox what's going on, or to that degree. And so I would fall into that. And I think when you start talking about a horror game, and then Hideo's, penchant for wanting to connect us all, what does that look like, and what does that mean, and what is that, is it Bloodborne where you're like leaving little notes for each other, or is it going to be something to scare each other and escalate it that way? Like, the world's his oyster right now, so I am very fascinated to see, what he's up to with Xbox Game Studio and what he's going to push that way and do with it. In terms of timeline, I think you're out quite a ways. I think maybe, next year at this time at an Xbox showcase, we get a trailer for it. That would make sense for me, right? And then still probably another year from there.
What do you think about it being cloud?
I think he's using the power of the cloud, like
Yeah.
that's such a nebulous thing. It's same thing when he was partnering up with PlayStation, and he was in search of new technologies, and that just meant that he ended up on the Decima engine from Gorilla. Like, I think that I don't know what that means exactly. I think it does point to connectivity in terms of like what he'll do with that. Again, trying to do not maybe a literal Strand game, but a game that connects us all and what we're all doing for it. That's exciting, and it's cool to see real confirmation for it. Would have loved a trailer, a teaser, a concept art, and anything, a title. You know what I mean? Something to go off of rather than Xbox announcing, Kojima announcing that he's working with Xbox. Like, it's whatever, but it's still neat, like we're saying, especially for that section of here's all the persona, and we actually are bringing Kojima on to do something. That's dope.
I just picture him in the Doctor Strange gif where he's like looking through all the possibilities, but it's like just looking for technology, like him just kind of scouring the
Gotta find that
universe.
hot technology. Gotta find that hot technology. Mike, yes.
Yeah.
So you bring up As Dust Falls. Yeah, of course, we're excited for that. The Kojima announcement, of course, we're excited for that. Another one on my radar that's more imminent, right? Grounded. Like you and I had I enjoyed Grounded so much at first early access launch that it was that cool. Rather than slow play this and do every update and every little piece of content, I'd rather wait for that. So to have that coming now in September, a full 1.0 release, what Grounded is, even watching the trailer and seeing how much it's changed, and everybody outfitted with their own gear, that's super exciting for me and you. Like, that's gonna be a fun one to stream. That's gonna be a fun one to jump back into and run the quest and see what the stories are. Like, I'm excited for that, Mike.
Yeah, that's a really special one. I'm really happy for that team and what they've done in, of course, pre-release. And now as we head into 1.0, I think that's a special one, especially on Game Pass. It's going to be a big subscriber/user base over there. I think the positive one is that's a family-friendly survival game, right? You don't really get many of those. You think of Valheim, you think of the forest, kind of blood, guts, axe murdering and stuff. Not really in Grounded. And I think that's a really good family-friendly title to have there to play with your kids and be able to build these survival games. It is a special one. So 1.0, and of course it coming very soon, is going to make me really happy. That's a September release for 2022. So that's nice. Those are some good games there, Greg. A couple of them jumped out to me that you would like. I'm surprised about Plague's Tale. I thought for sure you'd be super hyped on that. I think it sold you more during the gameplay, but I thought you'd be jumping on that day one right off the bat.
I think I will be now, Mike. That was one that, again, as we talked about, as the trailer was running, I was like, yeah, I've tried multiple times and it just didn't click for me for some reason. And Bussy made a comment about there not being much combat. And then as this progresses, right, we do see Last of Us Part 2 style, go into the table, come up, stab people in the neck, bring them down. Like, it's interesting enough, Mike, where again, I'm like, maybe I take another shot at Plague's Tale 1, where I go through and try to make sure I'm caught up on the story to get here, because this does look interesting, and this does look like something I would really love to play, especially because it just seems a little bit more action-packed this time around than the last one was. And I forget, how long was the last one? The last one wasn't long, right?
It's probably like, what, 8 to 10 hours?
Yeah, not
10 hours.
That ain't shit. That ain't shit.
Yeah.
Like this, Mike,
Shit.
I got that. I got 8 to 10 hours for this. Don't worry about it. And the other one, Mike, before it jumps off of me, like, because you bring this up, right? I would say, my other announcement, Grounded and As Dust Falls, sure. But Diablo 4, like, I think there's a lot to go back to for Diablo 4. Like, usually we end these things and Andy and Tim are like, I can't wait to watch trailer whatever in 4K. Like, for me, it's like, there was a lot of information packed into that Diablo segment that we talked over. And I want to go back and listen as a Diablo fan and see what's up, because we talked over crossplay and cross progression. The fact that you're going to be able to play wherever you want to and send your stuff back and forth, that's dope. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know more about their vision of what a shared world is and the way it changes and the way you go in and get help. Because obviously Diablo's always been about playing with other people and going through and, clicking heads, Andy, as you say.
Yeah.
And, I love doing that on PC with Diablo 3. I love doing it on PlayStation 4, right? With Diablo 3's Reaper of Souls. I might be wrong on the name. And then we've been doing Immortal now. And Immortal's kind of that mindless thing. If they're putting more into this, right, to make this an action RPG, I think a little bit more about, and not too much. Obviously, I love a good mindless action RPG. I'm down for it. The new loot, the new thing, but they made it sound like the world's changing and stuff. And while we've been live, Rod Ferguson actually tweeted, because obviously I think there was a question about microtransactions, right, Mike, when you were talking about it.
Yes.
Rod tweets, to be clear, Diablo 4 is a full price game built for PC, PlayStation, Xbox audiences. We are committed to delivering an incredible breadth of content after launch for years to come, anchored around optional cosmetic items and full story-driven expansions. More details soon, Necro blog tomorrow. So, of course, this is the reveal of the Necromancer, their 5th class, I believe, and they will be talking about that tomorrow in a blog. And I want to read it.
I think Diablo 4 would have showed a lot better under a number of different circumstances. Like, I think if Diablo 4 had never shown before, and then we see it today for the first time, we all would have been just absolutely jazzed about it. But I do think whenever I think of reveals from Blizzard, we always get the super high quality blur animation studios, cutscenes, and cinematics. And starting off with that weird kind of looks like an in-engine type of thing, and it looks kind of low quality, so it may not be Blizzard. I thought was a kind of a poor choice, especially because I think when I'm not huge in the Diablo franchise, but I don't think showing off that like the Necromancer is here, especially after the Necromancer is in Diablo Immortal.
Right, yeah.
I don't think that that's like a big enough of a surprise or a pop for anybody to go, holy shit, a 5th class. This is awesome. Like, I think that they just presented it in a poor way that it would have shown better if they would have done a number of different things. I think that's why maybe the excitement wasn't necessarily there for me. Especially from the beginning when we're all kind of just playing the guessing game. What the fuck? Is this Diablo? No, it's not Diablo. It just felt kind of like out of balance or something like that.
And I think you nail it, Andy. I agree with you 100%. And again, I think us talking and reacting over it is part of our own thing, but it is because it's a weird drop-in of a trailer that wasn't as hype as you'd expect from Blizzard. And then here's like a deeper dive, really laying out some of the stuff they're doing in there.
Yeah,
I think
really
the game was
excited for the
fantastic,
stuff they're
though.
doing. Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
visually, you watch that game even on like the crappy YouTube compression, and then you realize, oh yeah, Immortal does look like a mobile game. Like this does definitely seem like several steps above it with the lighting and the particles.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see, like you said, Greg, right, to learn more about the systems in place, what's going to be happening. I love to see the progression of what Diablo is, right? You look from Diablo 1 to 2 to 3, and even with Immortal, you get tastes of what you're going to see in 4, right? With this open world, a lot of shared environments of people running around, public events, strongholds are going to be really cool. I can't wait to learn more. I agree with Andy. I don't think the beginning CGI trailer really wowed like it should have for Diablo 4, that kind of weight in the video game world. But I was happy about that. And you brought up another one, Greg.
Hold on, real quick before you get out,
yeah.
I just want to make over on the thing. Edwin Riviera 121 says, and this is Game Pass. So, it's a huge W. It is not Game Pass. It is a console launch exclusive, is what it's been confirmed as.
Oh wow, okay. And then so I just want to bring up Plague Tale.
Is that not right? I thought that was.
I don't think that's right. I don't know. We'll have to double check.
Our notes say
I'm
it is.
playing-
Yeah,
I'm
Bear,
playing
can
it
you
back.
Okay, thanks, Bear.
It
Yeah,
says
I think
you're
right.
It says play it day 1 with Game Pass, but I'm not sure if that was.
Oh, then
after
I'm
No, so they were doing anything before it is what it is, Baird. So I don't know. Oh,
play
does
it day
pop
1
up
with
there?
Game Pass.
Okay.
Play it day 1 with Game Pass was the thing that played before it. But again, I
Wow.
don't know if that was.
But that's not the end, or is that the
Yeah, was
Is that the end of the last thing?
Here's what I'm
was that
saying
the
is
end of
right now
Airbag?
I'm on Xbox's page and it's coming to Xbox Series X, Xbox One, and PC. No mention of Game Pass. Right below it, it talks about Game Pass for Persona. So I do not think it's a Game Pass game.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a Game Pass game. It doesn't have the little graphic above it on that big sort of sprawl of all the games.
Sure.
I was just going to give props to Plague Tale's Requiem. I think it showed very well, and I think that is a Hellblade 2 situation for Xbox fans, where when you see Hellblade 2, like me and Andy recently went through Hellblade 1, right, you get excited, and I think you're going to go back to the original. So I think we're going to get a nice pop over there with people giving love to that original Plague Tale game and jumping into the second one, which will be a lot of fun. So I wanted to give some love to that. Andy Cortez, I want you to end this show with all of us here. I need you to give me a couple of games that really stood out to you because, as Tim Getty says, you have the best taste at KindaFunny.
Thank you. I agree. I think Wolong Fallen Dynasty is something that looks really exciting, and people on the internet have been tagging me on a couple of articles and tweets mentioning that it's by the producers of Neo and also a producer from Bloodborne, which is pretty cool. Just to have the word Bloodborne involved in any way is really dope. As we know that like PlayStation Japan Studios like kind of folded and a lot of producers went everywhere. That's exciting, and I think this is the type of game that I think it excites me that it's not a Neo title. and I don't have to really necessarily go in with any knowledge, even though you probably don't even necessarily need to understand a whole lot. I think the idea that it's a brand new IP from a studio that knows how to do combat well, even though I thought Stranger of Paradise was an absolute trash fire, it had fun combat. And so, yeah, I think this is really exciting to see kind of be on the Xbox side and say, hey, we are bringing more Japanese developers and we are bringing in more stuff from the in genres that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be on an Xbox, like sort of launch Game Pass type thing,
Yeah, totally, Andy, right there. That was a nice grab right there.
Game
But,
Pass day one, yeah.
Andy, I'm sorry to cut you off short. We got to get these guys on a plane. And of course, we got to wrap up this Kind of Funny Xcast because it has been a blast. You're probably saying to yourself, Snowbike Mike, when are you going to share some of your favorite games? Well, don't worry. This week, my two gaming dads will join me personally and Gary Whitta. We'll break down more of the conference. We'll talk about the deep dive that's going down on Tuesday with the Xbox extended presentation, and we'll give you even more Xbox news that you want to hear about. So on behalf of the team down in LA, Andy Cortez, my best friend, Barrett running the ones and twos, and all of you, thank you for tuning in live, and thank you for watching over on YouTube. Make sure to leave a comment with your favorite game that you saw over in the Xbox and Bethesda Showcase, and we'll see you all back here next week on Saturday.
And don't forget, everybody, there's a Gamescast tomorrow going through all the games we played here. There's a live reaction to the Capcom stream. SGF is continuing, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let Mike make this into an Xbox-only event, all right?
All right, goodbye, everyone.